We all know the lines "Become my angel of death," and surely you've played Legacy of Kain in your younger years. But do you know who is Raziel? Do you know that he was the one responsible for his brethren's death? Here we explore who is Raziel and what is his role on the Legacy of Kain. Raziel is one of Kain's 6 lieutenants and his second in command. Like other vampires, he experienced evolution that proved to be his downfall. Raziel displayed his new wings in front of the Council of Nosgoth. He had surpassed Kain's own evolution, and this made Kain not happy. Kain ripped the wings from Raziel, and then he ordered Raziel to be executed. In Soul Reaver 1, Raziel was thrown into the abyss. The water of abyss burned his vampiric flesh. His jawbone was dissolved and his wings hung limply from his back. He should have been eradicated. He found himself alive in the abyss and in the presence of the Elder God. The Elder God was the one who brought back Raziel and encouraged him to avenge his suffering. He found himself stronger than before, but he was not a vampire anymore. Instead, he is now hungry for souls. Raziel made his way to the material realm, confronted Kain in the sanctuary of the plants where he had fallen from grace. When Kain struck down Raziel with his Soul Reaver sword, the blade shattered and the captive spirit was released, binding itself to Raziel and becoming his symbiotic weapon, the Rape Blade. During his travels, he discovered that when they are still human, he and the other lieutenants were leaders of the ancient vampire hunting Seraphin Brotherhood. When Kain found their corpses, he raised them as vampires. Raziel continued to hunt the remaining lieutenants and track down Kain, but Kain activated the Chronoplast device that brought back them to Nosgoth's Pass. Continuing on Soul Reaver 2, Raziel found himself 30 years prior to Kain's refusal at the Pillars. He uncovered his past life as a Seraphin priest and also found a physical Soul Reaver. When he moved close to it, it created a temporal distortion, causing his soul energy to be leached and repaired the broken sword. Raziel continued his journey, learning more and more about the forgotten history of the land. He began to reject the Elder God's authority as he uncovered ancient shrines depicting a winged vampire race. Raziel wanted to use the Chronoplast, but he encountered Kain. Kain was expecting to die there. That was fated to happen. He also urged Raziel to reject the Force. Raziel has the free will, the power to reshape their futures. He spares Kain and ordered the Time Guardian to send him to the past, but instead he was sent 100 years after Kain refused to sacrifice himself. Raziel emerges through the ruins formerly the Seraphin stronghold. Raziel continued his journey and was able to travel back to the era of the Seraphin where Janus is still alive. This is 5 centuries before the events of Blood Omen. Raziel was able to talk to Janus for a brief time before he was murdered. Raziel watched how Janus was murdered, mixed with guilt and grief as he watched his former Seraphin self kill Janus. Raziel used the Reaver to kill the Seraphin elite, who is also a vampire brethren. He also found out that he was the one who put the corpse in the tomb of Seraphin, where Kain would find and resurrect them 1,000 years later. He also found out that the Reaver was destined to be his eternal prison. He was a deranged captive spirit that turned the Reaver into a soul-stealing weapon. Kain rescued Raziel from his fate, yet causing another change in the history. Raziel was exhausted. He saw that his Rape Blade was still attached to his arm. The evidence that imprisonment within the sword is still in his future. Following the legacy of Kain Defiance, Kain tried to find Raziel but to no avail. On the other hand, Raziel was weak on its knees in front of the Elder God. He submitted to Elder God's will, and the Elder God gave him a soul to devour and allowed him to leave the underworld. In his journey, he discovers that it was prophesied that 2 champions would battle to decide the fate of Nosgoth. Raziel believed that he was a champion. Raziel and Kain fight, with Raziel emerging as the victor. He throws Cain to a portal using his telekinesis. After the battle, he seeks Janus to be revived. Janus became possessed with the Hidden Lord. He pleaded for Raziel to end it, however Raziel could not bring himself to destroy Janus. The Hidden Lord had enough time to gather his power and possesses Janus and uses magic to obliterate Raziel. He woke yet again in the spectral realm. This time the Elder God told him that there was nothing for him to do. He will remain in the spectral realm permanently since Cain was gone. Unknown to Raziel, Cain survived their battle and awoke in the demon dimension. Raziel reconciles with Cain and willingly surrenders himself to the sword. Before Raziel was consumed, he placed his hand on his chest, allowing the Rage Blade to disperse into Cain and heal him of his wounds. Cain now was able to see the true enemy. He uses his newly formed Soul Reaver to dispose of Elder God. On Soul Reaver 2, Raziel found Mobius' spirit. He expressed his doubt and that it was truly a ghost. However, Mobius vanished, confirming that Mobius' spirit was just an illusion constructed to influence Raziel. Raziel's story and appearance was inspired from film including The Covenant of Dr. Caligari, Paradise Lost, and also Vishnu, the Hindu god. Raziel was actually an archangel, who is the keeper of secrets and the angel of mysteries. Soul Reaver originally had a different ending that had Raziel kill Cain and reave his soul, granting him the ability to shift between dimensions at will. This would let him access the highest areas of the Silence Cathedral and activate it, blasting a deadly hymn that would kill all vampires in Nosgoth. Raziel was actually modeled and textured by artists at Glyph X, who also modeled Diablo 2, Mortal Kombat, Spider-Man, and many more.